Hi guys, Ricky Pope here, and this week on the Christian Nerd Unite podcast, I'm joined by Stephen Fluharty, the Batman of Oklahoma, and we'll talk about cosplay and making people smile, plus scripture and nerdy news, and we'll get to all of that right after this.
Hey guys, this is Ashley Cox from Fangirling Over Jesus. At FOJ, we believe in hope and light in the darkness and that you are not alone. We seek to unite and celebrate the intersection of the gospel and our favorite fandoms, and we get to do this through our social media, our podcast devotional, and our cosplay and fashion. And you can find links to all of that through our website, www.fangirlingoverjesus.com, through our social media at FangirlingOverJesus, wherever you get your podcasts, and on Etsy. See you online.
And lead me on to your kingdom come, surrendering, let your work be done. My life I give for the glory of your Son.
I want you to know how much I really appreciate you listening or watching the Christian Nerds Unite podcast every week. We're part of the Christian Nerd HQ podcast network, and we drop new content every weekday. Christian Nerds Unite on Mondays, Tatooine Sons on Tuesdays, Fangirling Over Jesus on Wednesdays, The Reverend and the Reprobate on Thursdays, and the Speaking Nerdy podcast every Friday. Go to ChristianNerdHQ.com to follow all the podcasts and check out the Christian Nerd HQ YouTube channel for even more great content we're creating there. Let's read some scripture. John 1, 9 through 14. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in the name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or of husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. This passage is about Jesus coming to earth, that he came from heaven to earth and became human to be with us. John goes on to explain Jesus' divinity. Some might think of this like cosplayers putting on a costume, but it's not the same. We put on a costume, we're just playing a part, pretending to be someone we're not. Jesus wasn't putting on a person costume. He became. He was 100% man and at the same time 100% God, a mystery we'll never fully understand this side of heaven. I pray that this week we will take time to consider all it means for Jesus to lay down his glory and to come live with us. Now for some nerdy news. I know I sound like a broken record, but Barbie and Oppenheimer came in first and second place for the fourth week in a row. We asked the question 4 weeks ago if this was a resurgence of the movie theater based on Box Office Mojo numbers. They're ahead of last year, but still quite a bit behind previous years pre-pandemic. If week over week stays similar this year, we'll still fall behind that pre-pandemic year of 2019, but we'll be getting very close to what most would consider a normal year. But if the writers and actors strike push film releases from later this year into 2024, we could see a box office number drop back. I still think we'll see the best year we've ever seen at the box office since the pandemic, but we'll not get back to that 2019 number. And, not even close, really. Blue Beetle will be out next weekend. The question is, can it finally push Barbie out of the number one spot? James Gunn, after several promotional tweets of the upcoming Blue Beetle, has posted an interesting post about the actor Conrad Veidt. from The Man Who Laughs. That was part of the inspiration for DC's The Joker character. Although he does not go further, most of his previous tweets have been related to work he's now doing in the future of the DCU. This is sparking a lot of rumors that the Joker will be part of the upcoming movie currently called The Brave and the Bold, which will feature Batman and Damian Wayne's version of Robin. I don't expect answers to that until sometime in 2024 at the earliest. Marvel's VFX workers have petitioned to unionize. Over 50 employees have voted to file for representation by the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. If completed, this will give them regular pay increases and access to the union healthcare and pension fund, as well as basic protections for work. Supporters say this has been coming for a long time and that current working conditions simply are not sustainable. Well, this week I interviewed Stephen Fluharty, the Batman of Oklahoma. He spent the last few years dressing up as Batman and other characters for fun and for charity, serving as a volunteer for Real Okie Superheroes. Let's get right into our interview. Stephen Fluharty, it is great to have you on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast, or better known as the Batman of Oklahoma.
It's good to be here.
So tell us a little bit about Stephen Fluharty. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Batman of Oklahoma. I get to say y'all and things. But in general, by day, I'm a maintenance worker for Oklahoma Wesleyan University, and by night, still just a boring guy, but with 5 kids, so not too boring, I guess. I guess that's the very little bit about me. But other than that, I've been cosplaying a little more officially for the last 6-7 years on and off. I technically built my first costume when I was 6 or 7, and then built my own character costume, which was Duct Tape Man from high school or whatever. Tried to make my own character and made that in high school. And then when I wanted to do this more legit, I kind of gravitated toward familiar characters that people would know, because who else knows Duct Tape Man aside from my dad, who probably would be very happy about it. But anyway. So then I tried to do Superman, but if you see my face regularly, I don't have that Superman look. I might try it again now, as I've seen more other cosplayers try it anyway. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's totally fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. But for me personally, I wanted to be a certain level. And I was like, let's split other characters. And then I started trying Batman. And first couple suits I tried or built on my own weren't going so well. And eventually I did more research and then ended up with what I have now. It's something that looks pretty much straight out of the comics, for my opinion. Anyway, but that ended up getting me kind of recognized by some local charity cosplay groups that tried to recruit me. And eventually I started with one group. I think they were called the DC Marvel League at the time. Did a bunch of things with them. And then some of us from inside that group started our own foundation or organization called Real Okie Superheroes. And that was kind of like a mini Make-A-Wish sort of thing. We get in with the family, we stay there, and they're like our family forever. Even if the kid we helped with is gone, they're still our family. We help them where we can. But the Real Okie Superheroes started about 4 years ago now, with 3 members or 3 founders, which was Spider-Man, Captain America, and Wonder Woman. And then about months after that, I came in as basically the 4th, but I'm not on the logo, which is okay. But so I'm Batman more or less. But since then we've grown. I think we can bring in about 70 different characters now.
Wow. Okay.
Tulsa branch and now an Oklahoma City branch. So it's just been growing, and we're excited to see where it goes from here. But that's the bulk of what I do.
Very cool. What got you into Now you said, you created a character in high school, and when you were a little kid,
I have a habit of that.
yeah, when you were a little kid, you said you had an outfit, but what got you serious about trying to get into a more comic accurate kind of cosplay? Was it just, this is something you've always wanted to do, or was there something that was like, here's the reason I wanted to do this?
Yeah. I know for me personally, I've always kind of had that attention to that detail. If I saw a character, like, I would know it's not the real person, which, I mean, to an extent, that obviously can't be the real one. But we try our best to delay that response, I guess, as much as possible. But I think what helped solidify what I was doing was a sermon I heard a few years back. And this was after I'd already been doing cosplay, but before I kind of joined up with Real Loki Superheroes, I believe. But it was just a sermon where in that the minister asked, like, choose how far you're willing to go to gain influence on someone else's life with the purpose of, like, telling them how they're loved. And so in that moment, I'm like, well, I guess how far I'm willing to go is this. Like, I'll put on these silly costumes. Silly, I guess, depending on how you look on it. But these hot, sweaty costumes. I've got a Ninja Turtle now and all these other things. But Batman has opened more doors than I expected. And that's an opportunity to spread the light while dressed as the Dark Knight. So little irony there, but I like it.
Very cool. Well, speaking of some of your charity work and Real Oki superheroes, you said you were part of a group, and then you helped start this group, or kind of helped join in with this group. What made you decide that you wanted to go from just doing some cosplay and having some fun and just showing up on your own and going into what's kind of a nonprofit situation where you're definitely trying to help other people and make this more of an outreach kind of situation?
I don't know. I think it became a little more real for me even after we started having my own kids, and just wanting to be able to bring, like, we had one of our kids was actually really sick with RSV and ended up surviving, but it was a little touch and go for a couple weeks there. But in those moments, just seeing how far I would appreciate what someone else was willing to do for my own children, and wanting to be able to do that for them at that time. So just, I don't know, kind of being a parent has helped me want to be more authentic for the other kids out there as well.
Very cool. And talk to me about what that looks like. Like, you get the call, you get the bat signal, and what does it look like when you show up somewhere? What do you do? What kind of things do you actually do when you go to something like this?
It varies depending on what exactly they're wanting. Some events I've teamed up with, like, the Down Syndrome Association of Tulsa. They had a photo shoot with their kids a while back to have a calendar, and they had a superhero theme, and they reached out to us, and we filled all the superheroes for 3 days of a photo shoot, and that's been pretty cool. I ended up taking my calendar back when I got a copy of it to my workplace, and someone walked by and was like, "Wait a second, why is my kid on your wall?" I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, this is my son right here." I was like, "Oh, well." I turned the page. I'm like, "I'm the Batman that was here on this day." He's like, "No way." Well, thank you for what you do. That's incredible. I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." But just wasn't expecting that. I didn't realize that guy had a kid that was part of the Down Syndrome Association. But yeah, I got distracted on that because it was just a funny story. But
very cool. Well, how does
various times we need to bring characters with kind of a meet and greet scenario. Other times, hospital visits are a big thing we try to do. I think about once a month we get into the hospitals in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. That one we like go to room, that they usually direct us where we're allowed to go, and
Hmm.
give a gift of some kind to the kids and high fives, just something to break up their day because they're just dealing with heavy stuff. They're kind of having to be older than they will need to be, and so in that moment when their favorite superhero is there, they kind of be a kid again. None of that else really matters at the moment. So it's nice that we can be that for at least a little bit anyway, help them forget what they're dealing with at the moment.
That's great. I love that idea. And so is this something that like, is it difficult working with like the hospital settings? Are they pretty open to this idea? Now, obviously, when COVID was a thing, probably you guys didn't get to do much at that point, but beforehand and now that things are pretty much open anymore, is it pretty easy to get into those kind of situations? Is it a complicated? What does that look like?
I think during COVID, particularly, we were allowed to actually set up parades where we'd walk around the hospital outside, and
Oh, wow.
and they'd get the kids that could come to the window and wave. And so we did a couple of those to at least try and keep some of it going on. So it wasn't just you're sick, no one can help you. Bye. So no, we still figured out a way we could try and still help.
Oh, that's
And then
awesome.
since COVID, I think they've narrowed it. They let fewer amount in at a time, but I mean, any more than 3 or 4 anyway. It just gets too crowded when you're walking around. But I think in the past they've had several characters at once, and now they kind of limit that. But I don't know. The hospitals may be a little more picky with who they allow to just come in as the characters. But I think it helps. We've been an established organization, recognized with news articles and different things now, so they know that we're a good one to call if they need.
How does it make you feel when you get the opportunity to do these kind of things?
It's pretty cool. We had a news article, particularly actually a news story the other day about our hospital visits, and like the news crew called us and said, "Hey, we want to actually go with you on a hospital visit, see what you do, and then put it on the news to let people know more about your organization and stuff." And so that was pretty cool. I talked with my work, and they let me get off because it was actually during like work hours, so I worked with them. So that's the other thing. The other cool thing where I work, they've been great about. They know I do cosplay and the charity stuff, and so if I have to work different hours here or there to make up or whatever, I mean, good thing is things are broken regardless, so like I can fix it any time of the day pretty much if I have to. So they're pretty flexible about it, and that's been super helpful in allowing me to do these different things where occasionally there's something during work hours.
Nice. And now you have some other characters. You mentioned you have a Mutant Ninja Turtle costume now. What other characters do you do?
So me personally, I've got Batman, and then another version of Batman, like the kind of a Keaton-inspired suit. Kind of a work in progress with that one, but comes and goes. I'll have one. I buy, sell, and trade things all the time too, so I'm never 100% sure what I have at the moment. But started Wolverine recently. Wore him to a con this last weekend for the first time. Mr. Incredible hiding out behind me. I've started that one too. Wore that also for the first time this past weekend. This past weekend was actually the first time Brilloki Superheroes had a booth at a con, so that was pretty cool. We manned it. I was there all day, both days, just to make sure everything was going well, and would use different characters as the day went to make sense. But back on the characters, that's why I keep talking about wearing it recently. And then our organization kind of partnered with me on this. We bought a Hulk suit. So it's kind of half basically mine, but also the organization's like this one we went half and half on. So, but it's a Hulk suit that adds, I think, about 6 inches to my height, even when or maybe a little more.
Wow.
It's a legit costume. It's very similar to and then also Ninja Turtle costume, but it's made by the same company, so it's got similar feel to it. But yeah, so Hulk, and then I think Grinch is what I'm trying to get going before this next holiday season. And then I guess more recently also I'm going to play around and see if I can get this cheap Chewbacca costume to look good. But I'm not. That's what I'm testing my skill set on. One thing I've found over the years is I am not a crafter. I don't build them very well. I can get the components from several different places because like this mask is from Canada. I think these are from a guy in America.
Mhm.
suit from another guy. So cape is from Colombia. So like all around, I can't build them, but I can piece them together. So Chewbacca's
Ah,
one where I'm going to try and follow some steps I've seen other people do to improve it. But yeah, usually you spend like a couple thousand on a Chewbacca. This one was like 200, so I'm not banking on it going. But we'll see.
well, so that's an interesting question. Is this a pretty expensive hobby, or
Yes, this is my project car, or instead of project cars, this is what I do. But I've had some because I was trying. I think my wife was wondering about it or whatever, and it kind of helped her understand that. Oh, instead of fishing or project cars or whatever, this is your hobby. I'm like, yes, that is my thing. So it helps doing that, but also it's still pretty expensive. It probably is comparable to some of those other hobbies. Now it's gotten to the point here or there where, like I said, I'll buy, sell, and trade my suits, and so and then I also do like birthday parties with sometimes on my own. I'm also linked up with a couple character companies in the area that know the call it if they really need one. And so some of those things now have gotten to the point where it can kind of outweigh the cost a little bit, but make it come out in cost more than anything. But it's definitely not cheap. The Hulk suit, I believe, was little under 2,000, which the
wow.
K workshop where we got it from. I mean, that's a great price. Most places that make a suit like that is at least like 3,000 or more. So that's the other thing, even trying to be savvy how we go about it. The Ninja Turtle costume was about 1,000, which sounds like a lot, but most places those are like $3,000. So I was been fortunate, I've been able to find some of these makers that aren't as well known, but still make a pretty good product.
Well, if somebody wanted to get into cosplay, into the costumes, what would you tell them to do first? How could somebody get into something like this?
Some of it is to just know how far you're wanting to go with it, maybe at the beginning. Of course, I guess I can't say a whole lot about that because I wasn't sure until now I'm Batman. But maybe kind of get an idea of what you're wanting to do with it before you get started. It might help you have an end game in mind. But if you're wanting to cosplay just for the fun of cosplaying, then do what you want, go nuts. If you're wanting to cosplay with like certain charity organizations like ours, Real Lucky Superheroes, we have like a volunteer application, and we go through a panel of people to approve costumes because we want to make sure we're not bringing a Walmart suit to an event. We're bringing something like they throw around the Disney experience of sort is what they throw around, but we want to bring something a higher quality. So if that's what you're going for, then you'll want to do your research and order appropriately, or try to figure out your skill set pretty quick. It took me a long than I would have liked to finally admit I can't build it. I need to source from the people who can. If you know you can build stuff, then go for it, build it. There's tons of tutorials with EVA foam now, which is amazing. I wouldn't believe it's not armor. It's actually what people been making with it now. So, but be prepared to spend a lot. That's for sure.
So be prepared to spend a lot. And if you're wanting to work with a charitable organization, be prepared to go through a process, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I guess one of the things I'm curious about is there a costume that you're like, this is something I really eventually want to get to, but you just don't feel like you're quite ready for it yet?
Maybe revisiting Superman someday. That's one. Like Superman was the character I liked the most growing up, but like I said before, anytime I try to dress like him, I just don't feel like I look it. So I would like to try and be able to nail that, which that comes more down to dieting at this point, which I'm doing better at. It took me a few years to get the hang of that. So, which everyone struggle, fun with that. But a Spider-Man would have been really nice. I finally had to admit that I can be Peter B. Parker, and that's about it. So, which is okay. It was pretty cool. That's the other one I forgot. I did Peter B. Parker this past weekend at the con at one point, and I was eating a hamburger while in character. I'm like, this is the first time I've been able to eat as a cosplayer, like because. Other than that, yeah, I've tried to do a few Spider-Man over the years, and just not my build, and that's okay. But if I want to do it at a certain level, I'm like, okay, I got to admit that's not my character. I got to find a different one. So.
I could play the Blob really easily.
Yeah, nobody beats the Blob. Nah. Or King. You could be a good King.
There you go. I don't have the height for that. I'm a little short for that.
Nah, on camera, no one knows.
So when you're out, in doing maybe one of these charity events or helping the organization, how important is it for you to stay in character the whole time versus becoming Steven in a Batman suit?
Right. I know on our application process, one of the things is asking to make sure you're aware that we want you to stay in character as much as possible. It comes down just knowing how to read the room, essentially. I know when I've done birthday parties, those companies are like, you have to stay in character the whole time. You can't be anything, always in character. And then I get to the party and the kid doesn't even care about Batman. It's just like, okay, whatever. So then I'll chat with the parents a little bit, and in myself just be like, hey, it's okay. I understand it happens all the time. Like it just, so, I think it's just a matter of just trying to be more aware of the surroundings, even though I can only see like this small window, but, yeah.
Does that make it hard? Speaking of, you say you don't have a lot of, vision there, little eye holes there. Does that make it hard to do Batman in general?
Batman might be the easier one I do right now as far as vision. The Ninja Turtle is bad. The eye holes are just under his real eyes on the mask. So on one hand, it's gotten a little better because the mask is worn and so it's open a little bit more. I got to fix that, but so I can see pretty good these days. But originally I couldn't. Hulk, his eye holes are just a little too high. I think I need to adjust the mask a little bit on that. But Batman's not bad. It's one I've had the most practice with, so I'm kind of used to knowing what I'm not seeing. But it's still occasionally I have to be careful. I'll bonk a kid in the head and not know they're there with the gauntlets or something and feel really bad about it for a bit.
That could be bad.
Yeah.
Batman beat my child up.
It's part of the excuse we offer.
Well, if somebody's considering this out there who's listening, what would you tell them how would you encourage them to go for something like this?
Maybe don't be too afraid about it. Basically, like when I started doing this, I didn't really talk a whole lot about it. I just kind of wore the suit or whatever. But as time went on, people would find out and ask, like, what's that? Oh, that's you in the picture? Oh, that's pretty cool. Usually, I would expect them to be like, that's dumb. Like, why are you dressing up? But almost every time I've ran into people that know I do this, they say, like, they thank me for what I do. I'm like, I'm not a police officer or anything. Like, you're thanking me like that. Like, I don't deserve that. But I've just been surprised at how supportive people in general have been with this. So, cosplay does come with the haters out there. You've seen, I've seen it, but, the only time I felt any hate is when I, tried to sell one of my Spider-Man costumes and people kept calling me like Fat Spider-Man. I'm like, well, I know that's why I'm selling it, but whatever. But other than that, it's been surprising how just overall supportive the general public is with this cosplay. I think it's been growing over the years, kind of becoming a bigger thing anyway. So
yeah, being a nerd in general is more acceptable than it used to be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a cosplay section at Hobby Lobby now, so.
Yeah. Well, any last words for our audience, just to anything you think this is something somebody should know?
A good Bible verse for Batman cosplayers would be Isaiah 1:17. The shortened version of it is "Seek justice."
Awesome. And I know almost a lot of your posts have hashtag justice on them. So
Yeah.
I guess that's a good reference for that.
Yeah, I'm a
Well,
big
Stephen, it's been great having you on the show. Tell people how they can find you, follow you, keep up with what you're doing.
Basically, you put Batman of Oklahoma in one word, usually Batman of Oklahoma, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I'm on all of those. Or my name, Stephen Fluharty, will probably pop up something. I think there's like 6 Stephen Fluhartys out there, so it'll be pretty easy to tell which one's the Batman one. Other than that, our organization is RealOkiSuperheroes.org. We also have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and all that. So if you want to get a hold of me that way or through my own page, either way, they know how to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, I'll put links down in the show notes below. That way people can just click on those as well. Stephen, once again, it has been phenomenal having you on the show. I'm glad we were finally able to get together.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
It has been great getting to know Stephen, and I'm so thankful for the volunteer work he's doing. If you want to keep up with Stephen or Real Okie Superheroes, check out the links down in the show notes below. Well, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, just click all those links, whatever links are down there, so you can keep up with us and you'll be informed anytime we put out new content. You can find all of our social links and links to our YouTube channel and our online store at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. If you enjoy the show and want to help even more, consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. All of our levels have great benefits, and it makes a huge difference in the ministry we're able to do. Supporters will also get to hear exclusive stories of believers we're serving around the world through our ministry partners. To check it out or to partner with us, go to patreon.com/ChristianNerdsUnite or ChristianNerdsUnite.com and click support in the menu. And don't forget to check out ChristianNerdHQ.com for more great podcasts. Before you go, I do want to leave you with this blessing from Jude. To him who is able to keep you from stumbling and to present you before his glorious presence without fault and with great joy, to the only God, our Savior, be glory, majesty, power, and authority through Jesus Christ our Lord, before all ages, now and forevermore. Amen. We'll see you next week. Blessings.
Hey.